home. We are WNST, AM 1570, Towson, Baltimore, and Baltimore Positive. One of the really cool things we do around here, and we brag about it all the chance we get, is our longtime relationship with Coppin State University. We air their games. If you're ever in the car, sometimes in the evening, you hear a basketball game, a volleyball game, softball game, a MEAC championship, whatever's going on, that happens. And we're also sort of gathering our friends over Coppin State after all these years. It's been 14 years now as partners, and bringing on lots of guests for segments, professors, teachers, academics, and still friends in the athletic department. And we have some defending champions around there. I had Sherman Reed on a couple weeks ago. He's trying to get me a Coppin State baseball shirt, but I have a feeling by the time we're done with this, I'm going to have a volleyball shirt on. He has been the head coach here, I think 8 years now. Coach Tim Walsh, excuse me, joining me here. But I know I've had you on before through all of this, and I know your background out in Carroll County. And welcome. It's good to have you on. We don't talk enough volleyball around here, Coach.
Thanks for having me.
How does one get into the volleyball space? Because it always came to me downtown. I lived at the Harbor. There were always volleyball tournaments going on over at the convention center. My buddy Matt Campbell runs it over there. I'm like, I would just see just an influx, like half of New Jersey and Pennsylvania was down here. There's just a lot of kids playing volleyball, and I think I had a son, I had a daughter, want to play a game. I loved playing volleyball as like a beach sport and an intramural thing. And I feel like it's an entryway that's a little different than soccer or basketball or lacrosse or baseball for anyone that plays the game.
Yeah, absolutely. So, I mean, right now it's the most growing sport in high school athletics, which is awesome. So more and more teams, more and more people are learning about volleyball and joining it. And there's more divisions starting younger too. So now you have 8, 9-year-olds starting, they're going to tournaments. So when you see those big convention centers, they're filling in with those 18s teams and 17s, 16s, but now you're having 8, 9, and 10-year-olds that are playing as well. So, my daughter just went to camp this summer, which was awesome. So she's 8 and now she's starting to play volleyball a little bit. So
she can't even spike the ball, right?
Exposed. Say it again.
She can't even spike the ball.
No, not yet. Not yet. She's learning though. We're getting there.
Well, that's when you get to have the fun. It's like learning how to dunk when you play volleyball. What was your entry point, Coach? I mean, and collegiate volleyball, I would say my entry point was summer camp and playing, having fun, and then at a beach. I tell my wife all the time, we had a volleyball net. All of the senior weeks, we went to Ocean City. We set up a net, and it just attracted people, girls, but people. And it gave us it was a fun thing that was semi-competitive, but we would set up in the back lot in my alley and play volleyball, and it was something the adults could do with kids. And I think about it as like, I think of Flo Hyman, I think of the '84 Olympic team that it sort of came to Americans on the Olympic trail. That's 40 years ago now. And I think of the growth of all of these other sports, soccer in this country, lacrosse certainly in the country, but in the region. And I think volleyball is the thing that I feel like people of my generation, everybody played. It was kind of like horseshoes. It was something where easy rules, family oriented, picnicky. It was an easy entry point to put up a net. You could play it almost anywhere.
Yeah, it's definitely a fun social thing. There's leagues all over Baltimore. There's beach leagues and then there's grass leagues. Pennsylvania is really big into grass too. So the leagues are just, growing and growing as well. So people who are young adults coming out of college, maybe like first year into real employment, they're coming out and they're doing social things with volleyball. So it's definitely a social thing. Games at the collegiate level, we're inviting clubs, we're inviting different teams to come watch so they can see what Division I volleyball looks like. So it's definitely growing in all aspects. And, men's volleyball is also growing. Teams are adding, NCAA teams are adding now too. So, it's nice to see the big influx of volleyball.
Well, I think the other thing is, and I told this story a couple of weeks ago, during the Olympics this summer, I have friends, my friend Dave Sheinin, who's been on the Crab Cake Tour with me, lives down in Fells Point, works for the Washington Post. He's covered the last 20 Olympics. We just buried my dear friend Phil Jackman, who covered many Olympics in the 70s and the 80s. He actually wrote a piece for the 1984 volleyball team for the magazine 40 years ago. So I've had this Olympic thing where I talk about it. It happens every 2 or 4 years, depending. We don't do a lot of winter sports around here. But the Michael Phelps thing kept us alive here, the swimming thing here. But the volleyball part of it this summer. It was one of the first sports that played, but I had friends that were in Paris. And, I didn't think of going to Paris during the Olympics. A little crowded, a little expensive, a little bit of this and that, but it's on my bucket list of things I've never done. I didn't get to go to Atlanta or anything here. And the first picture that I saw on my timeline, an old girlfriend of mine was over there with her friends, and they're in the cheer space, and they travel the world a little bit. It was this incredible picture of beach volleyball in front of the Eiffel Tower. And I thought, well, first off, it's a beautiful game. It's fast. It moves. It's great for television. From a points perspective, you can understand that it's not a complicated game in that way. And just the optics of that, I thought, well, now look at that. Look at what they've done with volleyball from when I was interviewing Karch Karai down in Rash Field 30 years ago when he was bringing in beach volleyball here.
Yeah, absolutely. That was one of the best scenes. I think everyone still talks about that in Paris, that the Eiffel Tower and the night games and the back and forth rallies in the sand. So that was definitely something that was epic for volleyball itself. And Nebraska, they had the largest crowd ever. So that just became something last year. They held a game in a stadium and it was sold out. So that was really, really
I didn't
cool
know
for the
about that.
sport.
Tell me about that. I don't
Yeah.
know the Nebraska story. I'm not a volleyball insider. That's why I had people like you on from Coppin State, Coach.
Yeah, so Nebraska, one of the best teams in the nation, renowned athletic program, and they decided, hey, let's have a sellout crowd. Let's have a record-selling crowd. So they put a floor into a football stadium and sold it out, and it was a night game, and it was amazing. So biggest crowd ever in NCAA volleyball. So it was cool.
See, I didn't even come to my desk, and you are, of course, an NCAA coach. Tim Walsh is here. You're local, correct? I know of you guys. I talked to you a little bit about Carroll County. You're a real teacher, a real educator, and I mean, you're there at Coppin taking these young people who have fallen in love with volleyball. It's a world I don't know much about. Teach me a little bit about collegiate volleyball, and certainly there's a North Star in Nebraska that I've learned about in the last 90 seconds.
Yeah, I mean, so born and raised in New York, and then made my way down here for undergrad, and then have just stayed, earned my master's degree, and then started teaching, coaching, high school track and field and volleyball, and then just moved up from Division 3 to Division 1, and Division 1's just a different game. You have scholarship opportunities, you have people seeking to earn those scholarship opportunities. So everyone wants to put their best foot forward, and you have to find what's right for your program, culturally, academically, athletically. And here at Coppin, it's really nice. We have a family oriented, it's small space. It's a lot of hands-on and it's a lot of growing and developing. And so, we're not going to get those Power 5 kids that are, on prep dig and, going to look at Penn State and Nebraska. And we realize that, but, every year we're getting recruits that are bigger and better than previous years. And so that just shows you that, we are capable of recruiting some really, really good athletes. And that's exciting for our program. It's exciting for our school. It's exciting for our area. Last year, we had some graduates who are now playing professionally. And so, just looking back and saying, hey, my first year here, we won 4 games. It was crazy. And just
how many do you play? Give everybody a primer on what's a year look like for student athlete and for coaching and recruiting in your industry?
Yeah, so athletes, tend to come in. Some schools have them come in the summer and they take summer classes and then they're here to work out. And they're able to have that camaraderie and kind of build over the summer. And then you have preseason, which is heavy in tournaments. So that's when you travel and you play different conferences. So that typically happens, from all of August and then into the beginning of September, and then everyone starts conference play. So conference play, obviously, you're within that region and you're playing teams multiple times and trying to earn that berth to the NCAA tournament. And then spring, looks different for everybody. Some people start really early, some people start late. We tend to start late just because of facilities and, with other sports and conflicts and things. So we start late. We play, 3 tournaments in the spring and just a lot of individual work where we're looking to get, faster and stronger in the spring compared to the fall where it's competitive. It counts on our record. And then throughout that whole entire process, as coaches, we're not only watching film, developing practices and plans and staying busy, but we're also finding, new student athletes for the following year, and even 2 years out or 3 years out. So, we're constantly trying to get our feelers out there, looking at film. I don't know if there's a day that goes by where I don't watch, future recruits and, receive emails and respond to emails. So it's a busy time, but it's fun. And it's definitely something that, you have to have a passion for, you have to love it. And that's why I'm here.
Do you still play pickup games at the beach or no?
I'm retired.
No, you're
No,
done.
I'm
You're
I'm
done. Oh, you
good.
threw
No,
your
I can
arm out.
still I can hit standing down, but I don't jump anymore. So I'm out.
He is the coach of the Coppin State volleyball squad. He is the winningest coach in Eagles history. He's been there 8 years. I'm saying 8, right? Are we in 8 or are we in 9? Where are
We're
we?
in 8.
We're in 8. All right. Conference play, conference tournament, the pathway to be in the tournament, and to even stand on a court with Nebraska or Penn State. What's the pathway from where you are? And how many programs play volleyball? Most colleges have a volleyball program, right? Like some lacrosse is sort of catching on. Some places have bowling. Some places don't. Some places don't have baseball anymore. But your sport, I would think, is pretty well supported throughout the country, right?
Yeah, I think there's 343 teams
Wow.
this year in Division One. So there was a couple that added, moved up from Division Two, a couple of D1 programs dropped. So it just varies year to year. But usually you have between like 335 to 345 teams for Division One.
So how do you get into what's the tournament? What's the brackets look like in volleyball? How does that work?
Yeah, so they take 64 teams, similar to like basketball,
Okay, sure.
And then if you win, you automatically get a berth into the conference NCAA tournament. And then based on your ranking in other, like obviously Power Five schools, so even maybe number 8, they don't win their conference, but they still get a berth into the NCAA tournament, similar to basketball.
All right,
And we also have a secondary tournament as well. So the NIVC is similar to like the NIT.
well, this is the time where I ask, how's the team doing? Where are we on the curve of all this? Because the last couple of weeks, the one thing about September, kids get back to school and back into thing. You guys sort of ramp up a little earlier in the volleyball program, right? Like school and back on campus and competitive sports, especially for soccer, football, anybody playing this time of year, it ramps up a lot earlier. You feel like you're in the middle of it, not in the beginning of it, right?
Yeah, we're definitely in the middle towards the end. So we're halfway through conference play. We have 7 more matches for conference play, and then we go right into the tournament. So it's a pretty quick season. You wait all year for it. You plan for it, you prep for it, and then once you're in it, you're fully in it. So come August 1, we're diving head in and we're just going for it until, Thanksgiving or hopefully after if we get that berth.
Well, you got some great players. Let's talk about your kids and where they come from and how they get here. And I've never met a coach that love whoever their athletes are, especially at your level, where they're picking you, you're picking them, trying to find a good situation. You're 8 years into this. You have 28 and 30 and 32-year-olds out in the world now who played for you, and trying to lay down what the Eagles volleyball program is going to be all about. I mean, you clearly have a little system there and a lot of success lately.
Yeah, it's been fun. Part of the process is getting to know people and building rapport with them, and my former players are still texting me, congratulating and saying, "Hey, what's up? How are you? How are the kids?" And that's part of why I do this. We want to see them develop as people and grow and whatever pathway they want. So if they're going to be a teacher or a nurse, or if they're going to play professionally, we're going to support them any way we can. And so that's one imprint that we have here. We want to develop those relationships with our players, and I think we do that from the bottom of the roster to the top of the roster, and we treat everybody as family here.
Well, you talk about all the vocations and out in the nursing world or out in the real world, professional volleyball. Tell me about that. That's an educational thing for me. There is such a pathway. I would not have guessed that at the beginning of this conversation.
Yeah, so in the U.S. they just developed a new league, which is AU. So a lot of the Power Five players who graduate, they end up playing professionally in the U.S. But in Europe, it's huge, and so there's different agencies, and just like there would be, for the NFL or the NBA, and you find an agent and they find you a home, and so you get different offers, you look at contracts, and you find what's the best fit for you. So we have some players that are playing in Europe right now, and that's super exciting, to put our name on the map, for that. And now we have relationships with those agents as well. So it just helps for the future of our student athletes.
I'm getting old now, coach. I'm 56 a couple weeks ago, but I've been doing this a long time, and I met a lot of young men from, difficult circumstances who played basketball throughout the area here in all the years. And they would say, a Kirk Lee from Tass would say, well, yeah, I played over in Europe for a couple years. And then they would come back at 30, 32, do the show. And they're like, yeah, I played in Stockholm. I played in Greece. I played here. I played in Russia, and then I meet people like Brian Rousum that coach over in the South Pacific and Surabaya and Jakarta but volleyball is a sport that when I've been in Europe, there's a huge calling for that. Just young people to go on a pathway and have that kind of experience to go, yeah, I played in Europe for a couple years. That's a big deal. It's a big life deal, I think, too.
Absolutely, absolutely. I mean, and it's a once in a lifetime kind of thing. You
You're only
don't
gonna be
get to do that.
24 once.
Right, exactly, exactly. You're only 21, 22, 23 for so long. So it's amazing for them. It's amazing for their families and their friends and just to experience themselves. But even going into the workforce, you come back and you say, hey, I learned a lot about myself in Europe. I played here for 2 years. I did this for 3 years. So it just helps you, in your future as well. So it's exciting for them.
Coach Tim Walsh is here from Coppin State. They are our partner, very proudly. We've been their flagship for a long time, but we're doing more, peeling back the people behind Coppin State University here at Baltimore Positive and trying to chat with those. So, as people, you coached and taught for a period of time at Francis Scott Key. I do my show out at Greenmount Station and Crab Cakes out in Carroll County and Eldersburg with my buddy Dante Liberatore and all that from my Dundalk guys out there as well. But for you with sign language, I see that on your resume. There is never a time my wife and I drive down New York Avenue that in DC where I don't see Gallaudet and think about sign language and different things that teaching and sports and all of that. That is such a unique gift. I have several friends that have children that were born deaf and now cochlear implants just changed life in a general sense. But you have a skill set that when I see it on the resume, I got to talk about that. Blind people and deaf people, incredible inspiration for me.
Yeah, and it's just something that kind of we fell into. Like in New York, we went to our elementary school was a mainstream school, so we had deaf kids that came into the public school system, and they had interpreters all day that followed them. And part of our curriculum was we had to learn, sign language. And then I arrived at Towson elementary ed major, and then I picked up deaf studies, so I started taking just more in depth, sign language based courses and speech pathology and audiology and learning about that. And just picked it up. It was just like kind of a natural thing, and went into my master's degree and did my internship at Maryland School for the Deaf. So I taught third, fourth, and fifth grade there. Graduated and now taught at FSK special ed and then sign language as well. So we actually use it in our gym too. So some of the signs that we have for our plays are sign language based. So it's kind of fun. The girls kind of experience with it. How do you say this and how do you say that? And so some of our plays are sign language based as well. So
well, if anybody on the other side knows, they'll be like Bill Belichick. They'll be stealing your signs, right?
yeah, right. We try to hide it under our jersey. So we're
Coach,
good.
I tell you, there's nothing more badass than being at Merriweather and some band's playing like noisy, crazy rock, and the sign person's doing all the signing. And I think it's cool, but you actually can read it.
Yeah. Interpreting is an awesome career. So, there's the music, the court system, there's the medical field, there's the teaching, education. So there's all these fields for interpreting, but it's a great career.
The one thing I told Dr. Anthony Jenkins over Coppin, I said, we'll do this thing. We'll have these people on, just special people. There's just special people that know how to do that. And I think that's what makes Coppin pretty cool. My time over at Coppin has been incredible over decades, going back to Fang Mitchell, Fang bringing the kids out in 98 when they went and won the big game as the 15 seed. So I've had a 3-decade relationship with Coppin. Tell me what you love about Coppin and what attracted you to that, because you go to work there every day, you wear it on your chest, you recruit into it. There's a reputational thing about anything in the city, I think, for people in the county, and I'm always trying to work through that stigma.
Yeah. So, I mean, Coppin's just small, so it's nice. It's everyone kind of knows everyone when you go on campus. you could go to the cafeteria on a tour, and everyone in that cafeteria is like, "Hey, Coach Walsh, how are you? Who's this and where are they from?" And so everyone's kind of interested in everyone, which makes it nice. And that's across campus, that's through academics and athletics as well. So it's kind of like this family oriented. Everyone kind of supports each other, which is nice. Kind of at bigger programs, I don't think you always have that. I think you have, a focus on, one or two coaches, one or two sports, and everyone kind of just is there to do their job. But here it's kind of more collaborative.
Well, you look like you're enjoying yourself, and hey, good luck to your team. It was really great to visit with you, and I bet you didn't think I was going to ask you about sign language today, did you?
No, I did not. I did
Yeah,
not.
I
But I
mean,
enjoyed it.
I didn't give you the crib notes and all of that stuff. So, next couple of weeks for your team, what's the pathway for you?
Yeah, we're just gonna try to get better 1% every day, watch film, learn our opponents, and just grow on and off the court. So that way, come in a couple of weeks when we have the MEAC tournament, we're able to come out on top.
All right, man. Well, let's get back to the kids, get back to campus. I really appreciate the visit. We're going to be visiting with all folks all over the campus of Coppin State as part of our partnership and our flagship. Great to run the games at nights and in the afternoons and tournament time. It's better to get to know the people over Coppin State. We always appreciate that. Appreciate the time. Head volleyball coach Tim Walsh joining us here from campus over in West Baltimore. We'll be telling you more about Coppin State. We have the whole schedule out, and you can learn more at coppinstatesports.com. Get all the schedule, all the teams, getting ready for basketball season over there too with Stu. I am Nestor. We are WNST, AM 1570 Towson, Baltimore. We never stop talking Baltimore positive. I got to learn how to do that in sign language, and that'll. It's only a couple of words. I figure I can learn a couple words. I should learn my name, hello, thank you, and Baltimore positive.